I welcome you again to this wonderful subject that is social studies. Now, in social studies, the subject that looks at the things or the issues that affect our societies on a daily basis. To this far, in Standard 8, we have looked at a number of units. So, I hope you are really following from the first unit where we are looking at the solar system and the like. Yeah, just as always, I remind you about these topics. So remember, these are the topics that I always take you through for you to remember. You have to remember that as a student, you have to go through all these topics. So these units, they're there for you, 26 units. And so far, we have done the solar system, the shape of the earth and its movements. And all these, we have been doing all these things. And remember on unit number 10, it was divided into two: human rights part 1, human rights part 2. So remember, you follow them through. You follow the first part, second part as you go through. And remember again the exercise that I give you at the end of each and every unit. They are very, very important simply because you have to test your attention. Sometimes you can just be following without maybe getting the things that you are studying. So make sure that you write, test yourself on how you can answer the questions. Sometimes you can understand, but then to write them is a problem. So try to write each and every question, whether it's simple, whether it's difficult, just try to attempt it. In that way, you are going to do it very well. So don't just skip to the next unit before finalizing or answering the questions. They are simple and direct questions because they are directly taken from the unit that we are learning at that particular time. So make sure you do that. They are not complicated or application questions, not needed. Sometimes when I will also arrange, we are going to come up with maybe the question and answers model, how to answer questions. So that will be on a later stage. But this time around, you need to focus on those particular questions to test your attention, to say, was I really following? Now, today we are on unit number 11. Now, on unit number 11, as we proceed, we are going to look at trade and hire purchase. Trade and hire purchase. So be there up to the end of the unit. And this trade and hire purchase, it's not a very big one. Of course, I've also divided it into 3 parts. So the first part is looking at trade. Then the second part also is looking at other aspects of trade. Then we'll proceed in that way up to the last part. Now to begin with, let's look at trade. We are going to look at trade and hire purchase. So we are starting with the trade. So let's try to find out the meaning of this term trade. What is trade? You have ever heard about trade? Trading. What is trade? So let us look at it. Trade, when we talk of trade, is buying and selling of goods and services. The buying and selling of goods and services. That one is called trade. Buying, you buy, or you sell. You give it to the other person. That is trade. So in the past, trade was through exchange of goods for goods. So this issue of trade has not started just now. If we see people buying, other people selling, we are not the first people to buy. We are not the first people to sell. It started long time ago. So that's what we're saying. That in the past, people were buying and selling, or were exchanging goods for goods. That is to say, I have goods, I have maize, you have granules, then we exchange. That is trade as well. So that was mainly the trade of the past. And this one was known as barter system of trade. So barter trade is whereby you exchange goods for goods. So It is the type of trade where you exchange goods for goods. Or the modern trade is through exchange of goods and services using money. So today, trade is also there. Now, as we trade, you see that the people, they do trade goods or services for money. So you provide a service, then they give you money. You provide goods, they give you money, something like that. So we exchange using money as a medium of exchange. Now let us look at the types. Having defined the trade or what trade is, it's good that we know the types of trade, therefore, because even in the modern day, there is trade. We trade with each other. So what are the types of trade? So here I have two of them, and there are two types of trade, and these ones are internal trade and external trade. The two types of trade that are there even up to now, they are internal trade and external trade. Internal trade, what is it? Let us look at each one of them by its own. Internal trade. When we talk of internal trade, this is the exchange of goods and services for money or other goods and services within a country. When we talk of internal trade, we are talking of trade now, exchanging of goods and services for money or for other goods, but that type of trade, it occurs within the country. The type of trade that occurs within the country is called what? Internal trade. Internal trade. Let's give an example. So we have an example here, like ADMAC buys agricultural products from farmers and sells the products to industries. So the manufacturing industries sell their products to people in Malawi. Have you understood that? Yeah. ADMAC, when we talk of ADMAC, it buys agricultural products, farm products. They are bought by agriculture from farmers and sells those products to industries. And those industries, they produce things that are also sold to people within Malawi. So that one is internal trade. Internal trade. For example, when we talk of ADMAC, maybe it buys maize and sells it to a certain company that makes maybe chicken feeds. Then we go again and buy the chicken feed. But it was the maize that we bought, and ADMAC, the maize that we grew, we sold to ADMAC. ADMAC sold to a certain company. That company processed it, added some other things, and it comes back to us in a product now that we use for other things. So in that way, we're talking of internal trade. That is internal trade. A trade that occurs within the country. Exchanging of goods for money or for other goods, but it happens within the country. So this internal trade is also sometimes called domestic trade. So the internal trade that we have just mentioned or explained is also called domestic trade. So when you hear about domestic trade, it's about the trade of goods and services, but it occurs within the country. But there are some stakeholders, some people who are involved, companies, they are involved at different stages. For example, farmers are involved at growing, then they sell to ADMAC. ADMAC is involved to sell to other companies. Those companies, after making of manufacturing other things, then it comes to people again. We talk of maheu, all those things. They are the things that people grow, they are sold, they are processed there, then they come back to people. That is domestic trade. We have looked at internal trade, but we said that there are how many types of trade? Two. Internal trade and external trade. Having looked at internal trade, now let us look at external trade. What is it? When we talk of external trade, this type of trade takes place between and among countries. This type of trade takes place between and among countries, while internal trade involves the country, services within the country. But now external involves outside countries. So between countries, a country and another country, they are trading on different items. Now, it is also known as international or foreign trade. So while that other type of trade, we said it is called what? Domestic trade. This one now, the internal or external trade, it is called international or foreign trade. Why foreign? Simply because you involve a foreign country or an international country. So trade between two countries is known as bilateral. So the trade between two countries is known as bilateral. 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 Can you say that? Bilateral. So that is the trade between two countries. Zambia and Malawi trading, that is bilateral trade. And the trade among countries is known as multilateral. We are saying trade now amongst different countries. Different countries, they are coming together, trading this one and this one, this one and this one, like in a web of trade. That one is multilateral. Two countries, bilateral. Many countries, multilateral. Multi means many, so multilateral trade. So remember those aspects. Now we have looked at the two types of trade. Now it's good that now we look at the importance. What is the importance of trade? Why should we trade? Why should people engage in trade? Why should countries engage in trade? Is it important? So let us look at the importance. Number one, trade allows a steady supply of goods and services at all levels. So we see that there is a steady supply of goods at all levels. There is no lack. When the other side there is no tomato, always people go there to say, all right, let us provide tomato to other people. There is no other items or sugarcane, whatever. People rush there with their items because they want to create a steady supply to say always people should have what they want. So there is always it allows a steady supply of goods and services at all levels. And also, it helps a country to improve its national income through customs duty, and exports. So a country receives income through custom duty. When by custom we mean when someone went to Tanzania to buy items there in bulk, when he crosses the border there, he is charged custom. So right, custom. That custom is for the services now in Malawi. That is the taxes for Malawi. Therefore, it improves national income. So trade improves national income, especially the trade that when you are trading with the other countries, be it multilateral or bilateral, but you are trading with other foreign countries, it greatly improves the income of the country. And also, it creates employment. Trade creates employment. Look at how many people are employed in trade industries, in shops, in companies, and in different things that embark on trade. So you can see to it that trade creates employment. People get jobs. They get jobs, they are employed, they get money, they sustain their living. So in that way, we see that trade is really, really important because it creates employment. And also it promotes relations between and among countries. So with trade, you are assured of relationships between countries, Zambia and Malawi, because they trade, then there is that relationship. Maybe South Africa and Malawi, they trade, then there is that relationship. So it promotes relationship or international relationship amongst the countries. So that's what we see. Here we have seen, we have looked at this part 1 of trade and the hire purchase. So this is the part that we have just looked at the types of trade, and we have explained them, the 2 types of trade, and also we have looked at the importance of trade. So this is just the part 1. There's also part 2 and finally part 3 of the same unit. But before I leave you, here is an exercise. So with this exercise, I ask you to pause a little bit. Pause this video. When you pause the video, copy the questions. So you copy the questions, then write, answer them the way you can answer them, because they are all taken from the part that we have taken. So answer them clearly using your best handwriting, and you can possibly show your teacher, I was trying to attempt these questions, then it is well and good. And next time when we meet, we proceed. We are going to proceed with the same social studies unit, standard 8 in unit 11. So unit 11, it's where we are looking at trade and hire purchase. That's what we have started to look at, trade and hire purchase. But next, we are going to look at part 2. Part 2. Now in part 2, we are going to look at factors that affect trade. Factors that affect trade. So be there next time as we look at factors that affect trade. What are those factors? So don't miss out this one. And until next time, thank you so much.